Hi everyone, how are you? Ryan here from the London Craftsman again, and thanks for coming back to watch. Today's video is all about the assembly of our ultimate workbench frames. So stay tuned, watch to the end, and I hope you enjoy. So the two main things that we're going to be doing today is assembling two types of frames. One type is an open mortise with a tenon, and another type is a half lap. We've had to make two different types for this bench because we need to accommodate our table saw in one, so that needed to be the half lap joint. We're going to be going through both today. And the main type, which as you can see in front of me, is the open mortise and tenon, all constructed out of Birch Ply. So if you haven't seen previous video, I would suggest going to see last Sunday's video, possibly part one, depending on how I named it. That will explain how I've designed the bench and why I have and why I've chose to use birch strips, etc, etc. But today is just concentrating on gluing up the frames, showing you how I glue them up, so in the future when you come to make your own bench, you'll have a little guide of how to do it yourself. Just one more quick reminder that we are on Instagram, so give us a follow there. We've got 21,500, it's gone up a little bit, subscribers on YouTube, so thank you very much. But we do a lot more up-to-date stuff, stories, posts, lots more on Instagram, daily stuff where you can see us fitting, installing jobs, having a laugh, loads of behind the scenes sort of footage. So follow us on Insta, give us a follow there, like and subscribe here, that'd be amazing guys. Other than that, enjoy the video. So first things first, because we don't want to get glue all over our lovely birch ply, which, you know, birch or any timber, in fact, will soak up the glue into the grain, which will make staining and oiling a little bit tricky because it will just give you patches. What we're doing at the moment is taping up. So we're just going around all the shoulders of our joints, just leaving possibly about a quarter, half of a mil step back, just so it doesn't interfere with our actual joints. And Sean's just going around with some 25mm masking tape, squeezing it on nice and tight so it doesn't bleed through. And we're going to be doing that on every single one. Here's one already done. And that will protect most of our work from any squeeze out of the glue when we come to clamp. While Sean is just finishing that off, I'll run you by bits and pieces that we're going to be using. It's a little bit of a mess in here at the moment, but we're just going for, we just refill this bottle. It's a good quality PVA, don't be fooled by the bottle. And we've just got our sash clamps already set up. Also just got a bucket of water and a little cloth. Just every time we use it, we just give it a good old wash out and a squeeze, try to get rid of any of the glue residues, clean it out. So when we're just wiping our glue down, we're not sort of wiping more glue back on top of our workpiece, just making sure that's as dry as we can. Just gonna literally start gluing up our shoulders. And once we've glued up all four shoulders, or four corners, shall I say, we'll be ready just to get our clamps on. Right, so Sean's just gluing up all the shoulders. I'm going to just start applying the glue for him. Bit of a two-man job when you're gluing up because you want to get this glued up as quickly as possible. Apply it with the bottle, is what I do anyway. Everyone's got their own technique. Put on more than you think. More is better than not enough at the end of the day because you don't want this frame coming apart. But we've got to work fast because if once we've put it on and we've spread it with the brush, it's a light film, and when it's a light film and it dries a lot quicker. You know, like this, it'd probably stay wet for a while. But like I said, as a film, it dries a lot quicker than usual. Let's go round. We've got to do the inside of this tenon as well. There we go. You've done that side as well. I'm going to put a bit more on. Right, so all the tenons are now glued up, as you can see. Plenty of glue on them, on the shoulders. and also on one part of the tongue, the edge. So when it hits up against the mortise, we'll have glue there. We're just going to start slotting it together. We're going to just make sure all pinholes are up because we've got a good face and a bad, well, not a good bad face, but one face better than the other because we picked and chose our best faces. I don't know about you guys, but does gluing up always make you feel panicky? Like you just got to rush and get it done at 100 miles an hour? Because in the summer, like right now, sun's beating through the windows and the glue is going off quick. It feels like you need to rush, but it's controlled rushing. So like I said, pins facing up. I'm making sure of that because we did make a mistake on one of the frames. It is one piece where we just had one set of holes pointing the wrong way, pins. There we go. So they're all slotted together now. Nice and tight. Sean's just wiping off any excess that he can just see. Just to give us a head start really on any squeeze out. And we've got our clamps ready over here. So this is what it looks like, just glued up, but I don't want to take too long. Now to get our sash clamps back on. And we haven't got a great selection of sash clamps, so we're a little bit limited, unfortunately. So let's start on this end so they can see. We're just going from tongue to tongue here, keeping it away from the work so the clamps doesn't touch any squeeze out. And we're going center of the actual frame, so it applies even pressure. There we go. And as we do that, we're just going to give it a little tap, make sure we're pushed right up. Yep. Let's get the other one on, Sean. And we've still got a few gaps on the shoulders and we still need to close those up, so we're going to be doing those in a minute. Ultimately, we wanted to get our clamps this way. Like I said, we're a little bit limited on clamps at the moment. I thought I had a lot better selection, but I don't, which is unfortunate. But we're just making do with what we've got at the moment. Pull your clamp. That's the two sash clamps on. Just check how square it is as we go. There's two ways of checking square. We can go corner to corner and we could just use a square as well. That's spot on, to be honest. Happy with that. So if what we can do as well, Sean, if we get the tape and show them, we can check the frame square, making sure that your tip of your tape is in exactly the same place every time you move it. We just go center, don't we? Yeah. So we got 1581. And then we just do the same over this side. 1581 and a half. I'm happy with that. If we start playing around with that to get a 1/4 of a mil, it will make it worse. So now all we need to do is just make sure that our corners, our shoulders are tight. And like I said, if we had more of these long clamps, we would have just done 2 sets. 1, 2, 1, 2. But as we don't, we're just going to have to cheat a little bit and just pull the shoulders in like this a little bit. Just nip them up. And what we're doing, because this is the back face, it's already got pins in. We're just simply just going to 50s, pin those shoulders. Now we've got this sash clamp on, pulling the shoulders in. I've just got my 50mm pins set in. Remember, this is the back of the frame, so we're cheating it a little bit. If you've got clamps, you can always just clamp this way, you know, with just some squeezy clamps. I'm just making sure that where I pin is not going to be where I'm routing my grooves in the future. Got a leaky compressor, and we'll do the same to that side, Sean. That's fine. Yeah, that's lovely. One, two. There you go, so that's the back face done. I know that it's still square. We're going to keep these red clamps on. We're going to take this orange one off. And now just double check the front base. So now about 8-10 minutes has elapsed since we started gluing up. While we've been just doing that, Sean's been wiping glue off. Let's flip it over now and see what our front face is like and the shoulders. To be honest with you, what we can do here, what we have done for a few of us is, oh, you've got to lift it up. Put it all the way down, mate. Yeah. We can just leave this one now because we haven't got another one of these frames left. This was our last frame, which isn't half lap. So should we just leave these long clamps on? Yep. Go for it. There we go. We have made our life a little bit harder, just like I said, because we didn't have enough of the long clamps. We had to clamp it up in a different way. So we've had to use a few more of these squeezy clamps and two of these long ones, and to leave it here. So let's move on to the half lap frame now. We've done the mortise and tenon frame. Right, so I'm on this frame here. This is A for the table saw section. We've got a table saw box going here, and we've got all the extraction here. It's a little bit different because we've got to do this half lap. So we've got a division here. Sean, if you just put that in, doing a little dry run. So we're using dominoes. Yeah, and then we're just gonna be just putting the ends on like so. Don't worry about that, that's gonna be cut off. It was a typo in our cutting list, made a slightly bigger. All we need to do is just cut those tenons to length. And it's a little bit different clamping up wires on this one. We're not going to be using sashes. Well, we use one sash on this one, but we're simply just going to be clamping these surfaces together with squeezy clamps, one in each corner, using the roofing square and a sash clamp here. So there we go. One clamp in each corner, two sash clamps in the central division. Just made sure all the shoulders were as tight as we could get them. This is the back side because it's got all the pins. This is the front side because we've got no pins. But all it needs is a few hours to dry, and then we're ready to trim and sand this one up. So that is all the assembly done. Now ready for sanding up. So let's flip the camera around and show you what our process is. So Sean's just got the sander out. He's got 120 on the sander, and all we're trying to do really is just flatten these shoulders if there are any little steps, and also just get rid of any dirt and any of the rough grain before we move on to the P240. Because ultimately we want to keep these nice and flat. We don't want any steps. And you can see Sean if he needs to work a little shoulder, he's not going over it like constantly in one space. He's feathering it out so we don't have a horrible bump down. Sort of blending it. We'll come back to you. Typical, isn't it? We'll come back to you once we're on the P240. And it's exactly the same process for the 240. Just using the bigger sander now because we've got the 6-inch discs. So this is basically like a little polish up now, just getting rid of all the 120 sanding marks. The 240 was to get rid of any high points on all the shoulders and flatten it out. He's got to be careful not to round this off because it's only 36mm thick. That's done. So what we're going to do now is move on to the trimming. Taking off all the arises. When we trim, we just use like a little Makita router trimmer. And we've just got a 1.6 micro round cutter in it. And that's just going to take all the sharp arises off. Go for it, Sean. Doesn't actually look like it's doing anything, but I assure you it is. But technically, we should have done that trimming first, because just in case there's any marks, it leaves any marks from the router base, but we're fine on this one. So all we need to do now is just go over all the arises with a bit of hand sandpaper, P240, and we're good to go. Because we already sanded up these inside edges with the belt sander and the orbital at the beginning of the job before anything was clamped, there is no need to do anything there. So basically, frames are nearly done. Little tickle on the edges. That's all it takes. Nice smooth corners. So that is our process to assemble the frames, 2 different types, sand and trim, ready for the carcasses, and getting a little bit closer now. Hope you've enjoyed, guys. If you've got any questions, fire them at me again. Generally get back to you as soon as I can and try and get back to everyone. Like and subscribe if you're liking the content still, and see you in part 3. Take it easy. Bye for now.